Hey guys, Marok here. I just wanted to do a quick video on sculpting some capes. It's something that I've been asked a few times now, and figured I'd do a tutorial video on it to show you guys how I go about doing things like this. So the first thing you're going to need is some green stuff. Second thing you're going to need is water, because whenever you're working with green stuff, water is extremely important. Now, in terms of green stuff, I wanted to sort of give you guys a message of warning. A lot of companies sell green stuff, and a lot of companies sell green stuff wrong. So a lot of what you'll see from GW, and I've seen Army Painter do the exact same thing, they sell green stuff in a long, flat, squished together package, and that's wrong. If you're buying that, my advice to you would be to stop buying that type of green stuff immediately, because you are buying wasted product. The reason why you're buying wasted product is because as soon as these two putties touch each other, they start to form a chemical reaction which causes them to harden. Now, because the two flat putties are squished together in the center, this center part right here where the two connect actually starts to set. So when you're buying that putty, that material that's in the center of that is wasted product. So and then when you go to mix your green stuff, you get you'll end up with chunks of unset either yellow or blue stuff inside of what you're mixing. So it'll look like this, but it'll have like flat chunks in it that don't smooth out, don't allow you to create smooth transitions and that sort of thing. So what I buy is, this is obviously super used, but these actually come in cylinders, and it's your blue stuff and your yellow stuff, and as you can see, there's sort of an aluminum foil right here, and they're packaged like this in a long tube. So these two products always stay separate, and you're not buying any wasted material. So there you go. Don't buy the flat packs of green stuff. Get a tube. It's a lot easier. Okay, so our green stuff is pretty much all mixed up here. Another thing to remember about this is that the ratio between how much of each putty you decide to use is not all that important. If you add more blue stuff, the stuff will set quicker. It'll give you a harder edge when you're going to sculpt it, meaning that the putty, when it's mixed, is a lot more firm. If you add more yellow stuff than blue stuff, then it'll give you a softer putty, and it's a lot easier to put more broader, sorry, I'm just trying to flatten this out, more broad details into your work. So that seems to be nice and flat. Now I've laid plastic down, and this is for the purpose of it not sticking to the desk. So I'm just going to put a little bit of water down onto this plastic, and then we are going to lay this green stuff down, and we are going to flatten it out even further. So with this technique of making a cape, something to remember is that you're not going to have to layer on top of this. That being said, we are actually going to flatten this out to the point where it is thin like cloth is, and then we're going to put it on the miniature, and I'll show you guys where we go from there. Now, this cape is obviously going to be a lot larger than we need it to be for the miniature that it's going to go on, but oh, see, we got a little bit of stuck there, so we're just going to continue to flip this over and flatten it out, making sure that there's no gaps or air holes. Now, it is important that when you're doing this that you keep your fingers wet, and see, we got a little bit too thin there, so we're just going to fold it over and start over. That's another thing you guys are going to have to remember when you're doing work with green stuff, that a lot of the time you are going to find that you have to just ball that green stuff up and start over again, because it is very much a trial by error. Okay, so we're going to peel this off very carefully, and if you keep your fingers wet, you're not going to put as many fingerprints into it as you would if they weren't. As you can see, we got a nice smooth flat surface. Now we're just going to take our miniature at random that I've got sitting on my shelf here, which just happens to be a really old style Lizardman. And as you can see, this cape is far too big, but it'll still serve for the purposes of this video. So what we're going to do is we're just going to lay that on one area of the miniature, right there. And then because it's so thin, you see how we're already starting to get these folds? Lay that in there. As you can see, my finger wasn't quite wet enough, so it's sticking to my thumb a little bit, but that's okay. Next thing we are going to do is we are going to take our sculpting tool, like so. We're going to get that wet because we don't want the green stuff sticking to our tool, and we are just going to coax this stuff around. We're going to tighten up the edges here where, let's see if I can tighten this in a little bit. Alright, that's better. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're just going to coax this really thin piece of green stuff into creating the shape that we want it to make. And because this piece of green stuff is so thin, it's very, very easy to make that happen. And so what you're going to be able to do with a piece of green stuff that is this thin is you're going to be able to create these super exaggerated folds that are really going to take washes and layering and all that kind of good stuff really, really well. And when doing it this way, it's really easy to get the green stuff to sort of move up, and then you can even fold it in on itself, like you see what I'm doing under here, kind of. So what I'm actually doing is I'm pushing down on this green stuff and I'm attaching it to itself underneath, and then I'm just going to pull this back over so that is unseen. And then that'll give it the structure that it needs, that you don't need to use popsicle sticks or toothpicks or whatever to get that stuff to fold. So we've got sort of a big issue here coming up to his head, so what we're going to do is we're just going to put some more water on the tool, and we're going to bring this right here down, attach it to his chest, and then we're just going to push this so that it's not touching his headdress. And then you can see there we have a much nicer sort of transition into his head with that cape. So we've got this blowing in the wind sort of deal, it looks like, coming over this way, and it's leaving sort of a flat, uninteresting area right there. So what we're going to do right here is we're just going to pull this up, pull this up because that's how fabric works. And we're going to attach this piece here. We're just going to very gently push it so that it's touching this other side here on this side, and that'll give us more structure so that it stays where we want it to stay. And we're just going to sort of goad this, create this line here, another fold, so that it attaches there, so that we're not worrying about having to add any more structure to it. And then we're gonna get this plastic out of the way because it's starting to annoy me a little bit. And then we are just gonna take this and pull it this way, and call her done. So there you have it. There is how you make a cape out of green stuff, by spreading it out really, really thin. And then instead of sculpting more folds on top, you just exaggerate the folds in the cloak by pulling and goading the green stuff where you want it to go. And obviously, if you wanted to take this further, you could sculpt on top of it just to make the folds and everything more exaggerated. But for the moment, I think this guy is good enough. So you have it. There is your tutorial on how to make capes with green stuff quickly, easily, and without a lot of annoying sticks being stuck to your miniature. So thank you all for watching, and stay tuned for more green stuff tutorials with Maroc.